I don't know if the Jaguars are going to trade Travis Etienne, but it's nice to be in a position to know that they can if they want to. We'll talk about it today here in just a second.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. After 2 decades of being a credentialed member of the local Jaguars media, I think I have my finger on the pulse of the franchise, and I like to share my expertise with you each and every day here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen to the everydayers who show up each and every day for us. If you're not an everydayer, it's your first time, I'll try to give you a reason to come back here today for this episode, an episode that is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. That's right. Football season is around the corner, man, and visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. That's right. That means like right now, today. Got more on that in a little bit. Now I'll tell you what we have going on today. We're going to end the show, or towards the end of the show, we're going to talk about let's go shop. What do the Jaguars need? They got interior defensive line help. We'll talk about some other things that may or may not be available. Use or lose for the Jags. And I'll tell you what exactly it is I mean by that, meaning Devin Lloyd, Travis Etienne, it's their last year on the contract. Do you trade them or do you keep them for the production? But first, we'll start with the man of the hour for me. That is Travis Etienne. So I'll tell you the motivation for this. The motivation for this is the guys that follow the team on a daily basis, that watch the depth chart, watch every single thing that is done or said, and basically come to conclusions as if they know what the coaches are thinking. I'm going to tell you right now, I do a podcast every day, and I don't know what they're thinking. I can use all of the things that I have at my disposal and all of the opinions from people that I trust that hang around the building each and every day, a lot more than I do, and try to come up with the opinions based on what I see. But there are things that can catch you by surprise. And if they catch you by surprise, that's good for the Jacksonville organization, because they're supposed to. There's only a few people that's supposed to actually know what's going on over there. So while I am the expert, what makes us the expert is making sure we tell y'all what we know and what we don't, and don't cosplay and pretend to know things that we do not know. So I'll tell you right now, before we even get started, I have no idea whether they're going to trade Travis Etienne or not, but it keeps coming up because of the depth that this team has at running back. Apparently they got 5 guys right now, and I think they like all 5 of them, and they all have different skill sets. If you look at it from perspective of a basketball team, everybody kind of brings something different, and everyone kind of brings something that is complementary to that running back room. And then when you look around the league and you see teams that may need depth at running back or playmaking at running back, it always seems to start in Dallas, right? And then after that, it seems to go to Cleveland, where their second-round pick, Quinshon Judkins, might be subject to some discipline from the commissioner for some charges of domestic violence that he had that were then dropped. But that's never stopped the commissioner from, finding out the facts and implementing his own punishment. Plus, he's missed all the training camp up there at Cleveland. They have Dylan Sampson, but they also let go of Nick Chubb. So it came up right before I started to record. And ironically, I was going to record on the running back room anyway. I did the linebackers yesterday and thought I would do the running backs today because of the competition that is at that position. That Travis Etienne's name came up as one of those prospective guys that you would trade away. Now, on the surface, Cleveland is the team the Jaguars traded for the rights to pick Travis Hunter. And the people that are naysayers with that, I did a whole show today about that on Locked On NFL with my man Chris Carter in the barbershop. But the people that are naysayers about the Travis Hunter trade often bring up the draft compensation that was given up. Now, you ain't going to get back that first-round pick, not for Travis Etienne. And they used all the other picks that the Jaguars gave him in this year's draft. But you could get something back, right? So the currency watchers in terms of draft picks will always say, get those picks back or get some of those picks back. But I'll tell you this, I think Travis Etienne has a good chance to be a contributor this year, even though he's playing on his fifth-year option this year. I don't expect that they're going to give him a contract extension by virtue of the fact that, one, he's a running back. Two, he's a running back in a crowded backfield. Three, they invested a third-round pick this year on, it may have been a fourth-round pick on Bashaw Tootin, and then LaQuint Allen in the seventh round. Whatever they spent on them, those guys have lived up to it. So they've kind of outplayed their draft position and impressed so far, even though the games don't count. But from what we've seen in practice in the preseason, they've looked pretty damn good. But still, you're only one tweak or one injury away from, if you do move off of ETN, you're only one bad moment away from not having any experience at running back. That means you'll have three rookies. They have Tank Bigsby and ETN. That's their experience. The other three are rookies, right? The other three are rookies. When I say three, I'm including in that scenario, I'm including Jaquindon Jackson, rookie out of Arkansas. I think he has a little bit of say-so in this. And the reason why I think so is because he's a big power back that provides some balance to that room. And that's what I was referring to when I said they kind of look a little bit like a basketball team. So I think that's something to consider when you're looking at the big picture with the running back situation. However, I do believe one thing that we miss when we have that conversation is, in the 3 years that Travis has actually been on the field, he missed his entire rookie season with a Liz Frank injury. I know it was a foot injury. It may have been a Liz Frank. I believe, if I remember that correctly, it was a Liz Frank injury that he came back from. But he had 2 very productive years, and then last year he got banged up again. So it's also about a little bit of return or investment. Is it worth giving up a dude that can be super, super productive for you this year and can provide a lot of playmaking? And he absolutely can do that, because if he couldn't, people wouldn't be interested in trading for him. Is it worth giving that up? Is it worth giving up a chance to have as many dynamic playmakers as you can just for a mid-round draft choice? Because I think at this point, with him needing to get paid, you're talking about a fourth-round pick at best. Get the production this year, make a decision on him if you want to keep him, if he wants to hang around, especially if the Jaguars start looking like they want to be good, would he take a short-term contract that lines his pocket up with some money so he can continue to be here? When you've been here doing the lean years and the bad years, you don't want to be the dude that they let go when things get good, right? And you might not want to leave when things get good, but it is a business. So you wonder what his value would be. And then, of course, there's the compensatory aspect of it. You know, if you let him go and you don't go out in free agency and go crazy, you'll get compensatory picks the following year. We understand all of that. But it still comes down to not what you would be getting in the future, but what you would be losing right now. If I were the Jaguars, I'd keep him, and I'd find a way to try to stash running back on the practice squad if we could. And the thing about it is, Jaquindon Jackson could be a practice squad guy. You can actually decide to just pay a dude more than the practice squad money just to keep him around, because anybody that tries to sign Jaquindon Jackson, he doesn't have to leave. He could stay here. I do believe that there are some hungry teams that if they could get a running back that has looked good in camp and that's good enough for the Jaguars to even be considering keeping him, if they can do that without giving up compensation, that's exactly what they'll do. But I am one for Travis Etienne staying. Not only Travis Etienne, but Devin Lloyd and anybody else that has been adequate, that have maybe not lived up to their draft status, but they're still good enough with a new scheme and a new coaching staff to help this football team. I'm down for keeping them. We're going to go through some of those dudes in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. All right, I've been talking about MVPs and all of that for just a minute, but now I'm going to talk about who I think has the best shot at being the champion. That would be, in my opinion, the Los Angeles Rams, but they got something going on with Matthew Stafford. I still believe in them, though, and you can visit FanDuel, the app today, and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Let's do a little use or lose for the Jacksonville Jaguars here as we talk about who can they use and who can they lose. They could go either or with these respective positions. Just a quick note, the Jags are down in Miami during joint practices. It has been put out by the team that the starters will not play in the third and final preseason game in South Florida. I think that is a good development. You ain't gonna learn about them people that you don't know right now, especially the dudes that you already have penciled in as guys who can start. This will give, and then Miami's gonna play some of their starters. So what it'll do is give live action, real action to a whole bunch of players that outside of the number ones that they practice against at home against the Jags, they're actually going to be able to go against those dudes and see what you can do. And I was reading, my man Joe Shad has been tweeting out live from those practices, and I got to listen to the local guys from Jacksonville that actually travel down there, because according to Joe Shad, the Jags been getting whooped in practice all day. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. Shout out to my man Joe. But I really do believe there are dudes on the roster, man, that they haven't done let me rephrase that. They haven't done what people thought that they should do. But when you have a change in staff, you also have a change in philosophy that may allow those guys to actually live up to their potential. So when it comes to Travis Etienne, I probably would fall on the side of keeping him, because I think regardless of how you feel about the new additions and Travis Hunter and the wide receivers and Brenton Strange and the new running backs, you may get yourself in some situations where you need that experience and you need someone like that. And then you've invested so much, man, you might as well get some on the field return on that investment. If you want to trade him, just wait until the trade deadline, or it'll at least give you time for those young guys to show you more about what they're capable of. The biggest thing that I'm concerned about is pass protection when it comes to running backs. I think they can roll out of the bed and know how to run the ball in the National Football League. But I think the pass protection aspect of it, who to pick up, the hots and all of this, taking the closest guy to the quarterback, not the outside guy, being able to come across the quarterback's face if you're on the wrong side of the protection, and be able to clip a guy or hit a guy before he's able to get to the quarterback. I think all of those things are super, super important. And those are things that most likely a player who's been around for a while will understand more than a rookie would. At least if you keep him for a while until you move him in the middle of the year, you'll have a chance to actually acclimate those rookies to that. And I think that's something you can't really simulate very much. But this last preseason game will give them a chance to do that. These practices will mean a lot more to the starters. The 2 days that they're down in Miami, the 2 or 3 days they're down in Miami, it's 2 days tomorrow. Yeah, that they're down in Miami. It means more for the starters, because I think this is where they get their last dress rehearsal and their last work. Some other parts, I don't even want to play with the offensive line too much, but if a young guy can show himself up, like we talked yesterday about who might be in danger, or we talked 2 days ago about who might be in danger, and some guys that have shown that they can be reliable, but maybe they're not over the top as good as you think they are. It's along the offensive line. If you get these young players who can play and show up for you, then that allows you to let go of some older players. They've already moved on from Luke Fortner. I thought it should have happened, and it did happen. Nobody in the tight end room, nobody in the wide receiver room either, because everyone in the wide receiver room, all the young guys are their best players. So I do believe it's worth holding on to everyone. My man Josh Receivers, while he hasn't done much, in game time. He hadn't done anything in game time, and not really much in preseason games either because he got banged up. He played real well in practice, but he was released yesterday with an injury settlement. So it looks like Austin Trammell and Trenton Irwin both have a wide open shot to make this team. Most of the things that I'm talking about are on defense. On defense, is it worth it to move on from some people? Devin Lloyd comes to mind. I said yesterday I keep Devin Lloyd. I would not move on from him. That's a return on investment I think that you need to hang on to. Positional value may determine whether or not they decide to keep him or what he decides that he wants. I think a lot of this is Devin Lloyd. If this is the second system that he's going to be in, a lot of this is going to come down to, look, this is who I am. I can be a really good player. Throw all of that first round pick stuff out of the way. Throw all of that, the next Fred Warner stuff that people were talking about out of the way, and don't worry about trying to get paid to that level. But if you can play well enough, the Jaguars might keep him around at a certain number, unless one of the young guys like Yasir Abdullah shows up and says, no, you can go ahead and move on from him. But they're going to have to make a decision with a few of those dudes. Darnell Savage comes to mind when we talk about use or lose. And I know the defensive backs are still an area, even though the Jaguars added players. They drafted 2 guys, signed 2 guys in free agency, or 3 if you consider Travis Hunter. So 2 safeties, a corner, and then they signed a corner and a safety in free agency, and everybody's saying, go get some more people. I'm like, okay, there's 5 people that are probably going to make this roster. How many more people do you want them to go get? So with that being said, Darnell Savage is a dude, man, I'm sitting there thinking about, and I'm trying to figure out if the bang is worth the buck. And I'm not sure whether or not he gets moved or not. That'll tell you what the coaching staff thinks. And if they do that, that means that a guy like Antonio Johnson has made them say, nah, we don't need to pay for all of that like that. We can play this kid and get whatever we're going to get, of course. Also, Eric Murray, who they signed in free agency, I think he's penciled in as a starter also. And so I really do believe they still like Dewey Wingard a lot, because you've seen him out there and he got a chance to come off the edge and blitz last week and it worked out. Yeah. So really it comes down to guys like Chad Muma. I think Muma's in a little bit of trouble. BJ Green has looked really good as sort of a hybrid player. He's 6'1", but he's 270 pounds and he does have good arm length. He may very well, if they decide to keep a 5th rusher, because they're going to keep Dwan Smoot. And I believe that they're going to keep Emmanuel Ogbah for the experience. But BJ Green, man, he's raised some serious eyebrows. He's a rookie out of Colorado, played out there for Coach Prime. I think he's looked really, really good. Does that push someone else off the roster? Does it push off Miles Cole? Even though their bodies aren't the same, they kind of play the same position, do it a little bit of a different way, but at least they do play the same position. Dennis Gardeck is a guy that I think is going to be hard for him. I really do believe it's going to be hard for him. So of all of the experienced guys, these are the dudes that I think might be in a little bit of trouble this weekend. Although if they're not going to play the starters, that probably includes Darnell Savage too. Now, if you see him out there when they've already declared they're not going to play the starters, that means they're still looking for something, either looking for something good or looking for a reason go. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get ready to prepare for the game. But what do they need? Do the Jaguars need to go shopping anymore? They already added Colin Saunders on the defensive line. Is there some shopping still to be done for the Jacksonville Jaguars? I'll answer that question in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Got to let y'all know about Monarch Money, man. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. Whether it's a 401k, properties, investments, and when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching the spreadsheet. Man, I was paying for one subscription 3 times. Monarch Money straightened that out for me. and it could save you money and straighten it out for you too. Don't let financial opportunities like this slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser or half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNFL. Rolling along here on Locked On NFL. You know, we got a newsletter on the lockedonpodcast.com website. Check that newsletter out, man. Give you something to read, especially if you chilling on the beach or jonesing for football and you want to put your eyes on something. That's something that you need to do. Check out Locked On NFL, our newsletter, and subscribe to that. Now, let's go shopping. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, what do you need? I ain't shopping for no defensive backs unless something jumps out at you, right? There's a lot of people that keep talking about Stephon Gilmore. Lots of folks talking about Justin Simmons. I've been hearing Justin Simmons' name for 2 years now, right? These guys are out there for a reason, but they also can still play. Some people say part of the reason they're out there because they know they're good enough. They're too good to be going to training camp and doing all that sweating. Do you want a dude that doesn't want to go to camp, though? I don't know. Not with a new team that's trying to fit the culture. I would not say that. They have added at the defensive tackle position. It depends on Eric Armstead's health, man, if they need to go out and get a pure three technique to somebody of note to really go into that spot. I don't know who that would be. So it's just a shot in the dark right now to think about that. At some point on defense, they got to go with their young guys and see if they can play, especially in the defensive backfield. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't anticipate they're going to do anything at tight end or on the offensive line. And I think they're pretty much where they want to be with their top four at wide receiver, that they don't need to use draft capital to go out and trade for another receiver. Now, could they get someone that is a receiver or a specific red zone target, even though they have pretty good guys that can do that? Maybe a returner. It has to be someone, in my opinion, that has some duality to them, that kind of gives you roster flexibility, the sort of, not identical, but sort of the roster flexibility that you have with Travis Hunter, because he plays two different positions. Is there somebody out there like that? Is there a tight end that can also be a fullback in a pinch if they don't feel like or believe that they have something like that on their roster now? Although I like Quentin Morris in that role because he's a veteran. He's caught everything they've thrown to him in camp. He's built like a dude that really, really knows how to block and get after it. So that may be a duel enough for them. Yeah, I would really want them to go get another backup quarterback. But at this stage, I think with Nick Mullens, he's someone that knows their offense. Now, you can argue all day of whether or not they wanted to use Nick Mullens' expertise with the offense to help Trevor, and as well as make the teaching and the transition to it good enough in camp. But now you have to ask yourself, if you go get a backup, is that guy going to be able to come in a pinch and at least run your system? So that may hinder them from doing that. And then they might, everything you see Nick Mullens do wrong might not be Nick Mullens' fault, even though he doesn't have the tools, the physical tools that everyone likes. Or perhaps maybe even just promote Johnny Wolford to be a full-time backup now that the offense has been installed. I think that's easier said than done. I don't believe that you play around with that at this point in training camp. I'm of the thinking that if they were going to do that, they would have done that already. There was no limit to how many guys they could have had in camp, so they could have brought another quarterback in and just push somebody out at another position. They have a whole bunch of people at other positions that could have moved on from, and then had four quarterbacks in camp, use Nick Mullens for whatever they want to use him for, and then let him go and just elevate somebody else. But that's not what they did. So I don't think they're going to be able to do that. At this point, if the Jaguars add a player, I think it'll be a proven player that is a veteran that could absolutely lights out, give this team 15, 20 snaps. Like, if they hadn't added what they added it at the edge position, and then BJ Green wasn't playing so well, this is the part where you start looking around at the Jadeveon Clowneys and people like that. If they hadn't added Colin Saunders, I would be sitting here banging on the table for them to go out and get a veteran defensive tackle who was a dual player, who could play both three technique and nose tackle. So what they are going to show you in Miami this weekend is the players that you don't see play, they're here. they're going to be here. And you probably guess who 40 of those people are, right? At least maybe even more than that, maybe 45 of them, you can guess who they are. There's some other ones. If you see them out there on the field, they're going to be fighting for their jobs this weekend. So just make that crystal clear. Now, does this mean I believe the Jaguars are ready to contend and win for a deep run in the playoffs? Not necessarily. There's a lot that has to happen. I think their roster is a lot better than the 4-13 team they were last year. So me saying that they don't need anything, it sounds like that's what I'm saying. You can always upgrade. I believe James Gladstone and Tony Baselli and Liam Cohen are always looking, and other people always say, Defoe Illucon even said this, they're always looking to replace you. And that's the stark reality of the game. But even in coaching, they're always looking for ways to replace you if the team isn't playing well. It's the same thing. So nobody feels sorry for anybody in that respect. But I will say this, while you always look and examine how you can get better, there has to be a method to it, right? You don't just go giving away compensation. I like what they did with the Fortner trade because they traded a player that they were going to cut for a player that can actually help them out a lot with their depth. So that was a good move by James Gladstone. But they don't need anything on special teams. They don't. There may be people that start calling the Jaguars for Parker Washington. Parker Washington might be a good number 2 on some other teams, and he's a number 4 right now with the Jaguars. He's done a nice job, but I do think that they're going to hang on to him too because Travis Hunter, like I said, is a two-way player, and you never know how much the Jaguars are going to need him on that side of the ball. And while Parker Washington isn't Travis Hunter, it will still allow you to function at a pretty high level if you have to play him because Hunter is spending more time on defense. Make sure you guys get on Locked On Fantasy Football, the podcast with Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk, especially this weekend and next weekend, because this is when people are going to be having their fantasy draft. You can't worry about the end of the year or the middle of the season. Whether you're not going to win a championship is usually about what you do right now when you start drafting your team. So make sure you find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. I want you guys to take care. If anything happens down in South Florida of note, I'll do an emergency pod, or we'll at least post a short for you on all of social media as well as our YouTube page to make sure that you are kept abreast of everything. Remember, the Jaguar starters will not play. So the guys that they decide to play, you're going to keep a good eye on them this weekend in Miami. You guys take care. I appreciate y'all spending 27 and a half minutes with us today. I know your time is extremely valuable, and if you so choose to spend it with us here, we do not take that for granted. We thank you for joining us again because it is your team every day. Thanks. We'll see you next time.